What happens when a navy stops building ships to win battles and starts building ships to win wars? Japan just answered with 12 Mogami-class frigates that flip the script on modern naval power. They are not billion-dollar prestige destroyers. They are compact, lethal, and built fast enough to flood contested waters with missile cells, sonar nets, and submarine hunters at nearly half the cost of traditional frigates. China's new Type 054 Bravo frigate looks dominant on paper, with larger missile capacity, deeper magazines, and advanced phased array radar. But naval power is no longer measured ship to ship. It is measured in control of the battle space, and when 12 Mogamis patrol where 3 Type 054 Bravos operate, the balance in the East China Sea begins to shift. China's shipyards are racing ahead, launching more warships in 1 decade than most navies deploy in an entire lifetime. So Japan changed the strategy. Instead of trying to match single ship capability, the plan is to build enough vessels to reshape the fight. Quantity that threatens to overwhelm. Quality designed for networked combat. Costs engineered for scale. This is how the Mogami class could outgun China's latest frigates, not by overpowering them in a direct comparison, but by outperforming them in the kind of war they are designed for. This is where the Mogami class rewrites the playbook. Instead of matching China ship for ship with expensive, traditional frigates, Japan designed a platform optimized for mass production, operational flexibility, and distributed operations. The central question driving this entire analysis: can a lighter, more numerous fleet of Mogamis control contested waters better than fewer, individually more powerful Type 054Bs? The Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force calls them multi-mission frigates. The designation undersells what they really are. Modular warships designed to swap mission packages, operate with reduced crews, and saturate choke points with sensors and weapons. At 3,900 tons and 133 meters in length, each Mogami displaces about 20% less than a Type 054B. But Japan plans to field 12 Mogamis by 2028, with an eventual goal of 22 ships. China operates roughly 40 Type 054 and 054 frigates, with an estimated 8 to 12 Type 054Bs planned over the next decade. The difference comes down to cost and construction speed. Each Mogami costs approximately $470 million, slightly more than a Type 054B on paper. But Japan builds them in just over 2 years using modular construction techniques borrowed from commercial shipbuilding. Crew size sits at 90 personnel compared to 165 on a Type 054B. Automation handles damage control, propulsion management, and sensor fusion. But here is where it gets interesting. Lower crew requirements do not just save money on personnel, they fundamentally change how Japan can deploy these ships. Smaller crews mean faster training pipelines, lower operational fatigue, and the ability to sustain more hulls at sea simultaneously. When a navy can keep 8 Mogamis operational for the crew cost of 5 traditional frigates, the math of sea control shifts. The Mogami's real advantage is not in any single weapon system. It is in the ship's ability to reconfigure for different missions without returning to port. The stern of every Mogami features a modular mission bay, essentially a plug-and-play space where mission packages slide into standardized interfaces. 1 week, the ship carries mine countermeasures, equipment, and autonomous underwater vehicles. The next week, engineers swap in anti-submarine warfare modules with additional sonobuoys and towed array sonar. The third configuration adds containerized anti-ship missiles or electronic warfare suites. This is not theoretical. Japan has already tested mission package swaps in under 48 hours per side. Compare this to traditional warships, where changing mission focus requires months-long maintenance periods and yard work. The Type 054B comes equipped for anti-air, anti-submarine, and anti-surface warfare from the moment it launches, but it cannot adapt beyond its installed systems without major refits. The forward vertical launch system on the Mogami holds 16 cells, compared to 32 on the Type 054B. On paper, China's frigate carries twice the missile capacity. In practice, the comparison becomes more complex. Japan's Mark 41 VLS uses a modular system compatible with American missiles, SM-2 air defense interceptors, ESSM quad-packed short-range missiles, ASROC anti-submarine rockets, and potential future integration of Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. A single Mk-41 cell can hold one large missile or 4 ESSMs, giving the Mogami up to 64 short-range interceptors in a layered defense. The Type 054B uses China's indigenous vertical launch system, carrying a mix of HHQ-16 medium-range air defense missiles and U-8 anti-submarine rockets. Maximum range on the HHQ-16 reaches approximately 70 kilometers, roughly 43 miles, while the SM-2 extends to 90 miles. That extra 47 miles of engagement envelope matters when defending against anti-ship cruise missiles that approach at transonic speeds. An extra 30 seconds of warning and engagement time means the difference between a successful intercept and a catastrophic hit. For anti-submarine warfare, both ships carry capable systems, but the Mogami's modular approach allows mission-specific loadouts. During operations focused on submarine hunting, a Mogami can embark additional sonobuoy launchers, towed array sonar, and even unmanned surface vehicles designed to extend detection range. The Type 054B operates with a fixed sonar suite and a single helicopter. Capable, but not reconfigurable, Japan did not design the Mogami to win one-on-one duels with Type 054Bs. They designed it to win wars of attrition through numbers and endurance. This strategy becomes clear when examining operational deployment patterns in the East China Sea. The Senkaku Islands sit roughly 200 miles from both mainland Japan and Taiwan. China claims the territory, Japan administers it, and both nations patrol the surrounding waters constantly. For years, this meant Japanese Coast Guard vessels shadowing Chinese fishing fleets and maritime militia boats, with occasional warship patrols when tensions escalated. The problem with deploying destroyers and traditional frigates for this mission is simple economics. Burning fuel and accumulating wear on a billion-dollar warship to monitor fishing boats does not scale. The Mogami changes this calculus. With lower operating costs, smaller crews, and diesel-electric combined propulsion that sips fuel at patrol speeds, Japan can sustain a persistent presence without breaking the budget. A single Mogami can patrol for 30 days with minimal crew fatigue. 8 Mogamis on rotational deployment means 2 ships constantly on station in critical choke points, with others in short-cycle maintenance and training. China could theoretically match this presence with Type 054Bs, but the cost differential compounds over time. Each 054B burns more fuel, requires larger crews with more complex training pipelines, and demands more extensive maintenance between deployments. When both nations operate for 365 days per year, the side that can keep more ships at sea without exhausting budgets wins the game of presence. Anti-submarine warfare presents another area where numbers trump individual capability. Modern diesel-electric submarines operate almost silently when running on batteries. Detecting them requires persistent sonar coverage across wide areas. A single frigate with a towed array and a helicopter can cover perhaps 500 square miles effectively. 3 frigates can triple that coverage. 12 frigates can create an overlapping sensor network that makes it exponentially harder for submarines to transit undetected. Japan's submarine force remains one of the quietest and most capable in the world, but China operates over 50 modern diesel and nuclear attack submarines. Sheer numbers mean some will slip through defenses. The Mogami class creates a mobile barrier, not impenetrable, but dense enough to raise detection probability significantly. When operating in coordination with Japanese P-1 maritime patrol aircraft and American P-8 Poseidons, the network effect multiplies. What they did next is even more surprising. Japan integrated the Mogami class with autonomous systems in ways no other navy has fully operationalized. Each ship can deploy and control multiple unmanned surface vehicles and underwater drones. These autonomous platforms act as sensor pickets, pushing the detection envelope dozens of miles beyond the frigate itself. An approaching threat, whether submarine, missile, or surface ship, encounters the unmanned screen first, giving the Mogami crew critical extra minutes to react. The Type 054B lacks equivalent unmanned vehicle integration. Chinese naval doctrine emphasizes centralized control and manned platforms, a legacy of concerns about autonomous system reliability and security vulnerabilities. This philosophical difference creates an operational gap. A Mogami with 4 autonomous surface vehicles effectively quintuples its sensor footprint. A Type 054B operates within its own sensor range, however capable those sensors might be. Wargame simulations reveal consistent patterns when Mogami frigates face Type 054Bs in the East China Sea. One-on-one in open water, the Type 054Bs, heavier missiles, and larger crew give it advantages. But real engagements happen in cluttered littorals, where land-based sensors, aircraft, and submarines shift the equation. Here is where the Mogami's network integration becomes decisive. Japan operates extensive ground-based radar across its island chains, feeding data directly into ship combat system. This gives Mogami crews a comprehensive picture, extending hundreds of miles beyond their own sensors. The Type 054B relies on its radar and satellite links to Chinese networks, links vulnerable to jamming or kinetic attack during conflict. A realistic scenario: 4 Mogamis patrol the Miyako Strait, each ship 40 miles apart, creating a 160-mile sensor web. Autonomous vehicles extend detection another 20 miles. Land-based radar provides over-the-horizon targeting. 2 Type 054Bs approach from the west. They detect the Mogamis at 80 miles, well before missile range. Chinese commanders face a choice: push through prepared defenses or divert entirely, adding days to transit and exposing themselves to submarine ambush. If they engage, mathematics favors defense. 2 Type 054Bs carry 64 missiles combined. 4 Mogamis carry 64 missiles plus quad-packed interceptors. But more critically, they operate within a defensive network, including land-based anti-ship missiles and fighter aircraft. Attackers must overwhelm not just ship defenses, but integrated air defense zones extending dozens of miles inland. Joint exercises in 2024 and 2025 tested these scenarios. Naval journals suggest distributed frigates within defensive networks achieve significantly higher survival rates than concentrated formations. The Mogami was purpose-built for this. But there is one problem nobody discusses. This assumes the Mogami performs as advertised under combat stress. The ships are new. Automation can fail. Modular packages require flawless execution under pressure. If critical systems fail, a Mogami becomes less capable than traditional frigates with redundant, hardwired system. China knows this. Type 054B designers chose proven technologies over cutting-edge systems. The Type 054B trades efficiency for robustness. In a prolonged war where maintenance infrastructure degrades, simpler ships that crews can repair with basic tools might outlast sophisticated platforms dependent on specialized parts and software updates. The Mogami class represents more than just Japan's answer to Chinese naval expansion. It demonstrates an entirely different approach to naval power in an era where building traditional frigates and destroyers has become prohibitively expensive for all but the wealthiest nations. European navies watch the Mogami program closely. Several countries face aging fleets, shrinking budgets, and extensive maritime territories to cover. The modular concept offers a solution. Instead of building specialized mine hunters, submarine chasers, and patrol frigates, nations could build a common hull with swappable capabilities. Poland expressed interest in Mogami-derived designs. Australia considered similar concepts before committing to Hunter-class frigates. The United States Navy's Constellation-class frigate costs $940 million per ship, double the Mogami. American frigates will be more capable individually, but the Navy will build fewer of them. Some analysts argue the U.S. should have followed Japan's model, more hulls with good enough capabilities rather than fewer exceptional ones. For China, The Mogami presents a strategic problem. Beijing assumed regional competitors would struggle to field sufficient numbers. Japan's ability to produce capable frigates quickly disrupts that assumption. If Taiwan, South Korea, and Australia pursued similar strategies, China's numerical advantage would erode. So, can Japan's Mogami class outgun China's Type 054B frigates? The answer is yes, but not through superior firepower. The Mogami wins through numbers, flexibility, and network integration that multiply its effectiveness. China's Type 054B carries more missiles and proven technologies, but Japan can field 2 Mogamis for every Type 054B China builds, and those Mogamis operate more days per year at lower cost. Here is what matters. Naval power in contested littorals is not about winning ship versus ship duels. It is about sustained presence and sensor coverage. The side that keeps more platforms at sea consistently controls the operational tempo. Modular designs represent a fundamental shift toward good enough ships in sufficient quantity rather than exquisite platforms. Integration with land-based sensors, aircraft, and unmanned systems transforms individual warships into network nodes rather than standalone combatants. The question now is not whether the Mogami can compete with the Type 054B. It is whether China can build Type 054Bs fast enough to match Japan's production tempo while simultaneously expanding its carrier fleet, submarine force, and amphibious capabilities, and whether Japan's bet on automation and modularity proves sustainable when ships face combat damage, electronic warfare, and the chaos of actual war rather than peacetime patrols. What happens next will determine whether distributed frigate forces become the dominant model for medium naval powers, or whether China's investment in heavier, more traditional warships proves correct. Either way, the balance in the Western Pacific just shifted. If you found this breakdown gripping, make sure to like, share, and subscribe.